Hi there, we're starting our next tutorial using AutoCAD for beginners. I hope you experimented with all the different icons down the bottom, which you learnt where all the object snaps and grid snaps and all the different things, the ways you can set up AutoCAD to suit your own specific purpose. If you lost anything, just let me know and I'll help you find where it all went. What we're going to do now is we're going to investigate the actual creating geometry in model space. Now you'll see all across the top here all the different tools that you may use to create your geometry and then to modify your geometry. You can see below you have all the different groupings that you may have, the different things you may want to do. In the drawer, there's all the different types of geometry you can have. These are predominantly lines. Up here is the polylines, the circles, the arcs, rectangles, ellipses, and this is for hatching, which I'll go into further in another tutorial. These are the things that you can do after you've created your geometry. You can move it, you can copy it, you can rotate it, mirror it, scale it. If you haven't got the right size, you can scale it, stretch it to make it bigger, trim it down to size, extend, fillets, and also a chamfer to blend curves. These are all the different things you can do. In this section here is the layers. Now, back in the old days before CAD was around, when you had different levels of drawings that you had to do, just say that you're working in architecture, you might have the basement, you draw up your basement, then you'd have to draw your first floor, then your second floor. What they used to do is lay a sheet of paper over the top of each level so that it built layers. If you wanted to see the basement, you had to fold those layers away so you could see the drawings in the basement. So what AutoCAD's done is created a system of layers, so it basically gives you the same thing. That you can build and draw in different levels, and because the way that it works, you can actually turn a level off if you want to be able to see what's below it. It works in all different disciplines of drafting. It's not just architecture. There's engineering drafting and electrical drafting. All those you can still use the layer sequence, and it will be very beneficial to you. What I've actually got here is I've got a couple of layers, one for the title block and the border. That's in model space, paper space. Whereas I've got the drawings here, and I've got the title block, the border around the outside. You've got these arrows and the letters and numbers so that you can line sheets up. You know when you print them, if it's printing to the right size. I've got this particular one. You'll see down the bottom here. It's an A3 layout, and the second one is an A4 layout. They may appear the same because we can zoom extents on the page and they don't look any different, but when this one prints it'll be A3, and when this prints it'll be the A4. Go back into model space where we create a geometry. Back in the old days before CAD, all the geometry got put on a piece of paper. Nowadays it's not. All your geometry is drawn full size. I talked in the previous tutorial about how you used to scale down the size of things so it would fit on the sheet of paper. You can imagine your scale would be different on an A3 sheet than an A4 sheet if you were drawing the same size physical object. The scaling would be different. Whereas in AutoCAD we draw everything full size. You never have to think about scaling geometry when you draw in model space. Now, the first one of the main things we've got to understand, the way that AutoCAD, remember I said that it was a user coordinate system. AutoCAD works in a specific way. You need to enter your information to suit that specific way. So what I've got here, I've just turned it off to show parallel. I've just turned the layer on so now you can see it. The way that AutoCAD works. In the last tutorial I talked about the X and Y, you've got the horizontal and the vertical. And you know the way in a circle we've got 360 degrees. I know in mathematics, in sine, cos and tan, you'll know about the different quadrants in a circle if you've studied that. If you're in the lower grades of secondary, you would not have met that yet, but hey, great, you're going to learn something today. We know there's 360 degrees in a circle. In AutoCAD, the way that it works is you've got 0 in the middle, 0y, 0x, and 0z. Out to the right of 0, you've still got 0 degrees. That is the angle of the line when it progresses to your right. When it progresses to your left, in mathematics, you'd be on the negative side, but in AutoCAD, it's not negative, it's just 180 degrees. It's from 0 to 180 degrees, whereas in this one, it stays to 0. In this quadrant, if we call this quadrant here the first quadrant, the angles within that quadrant are 0 to 90. The angles within your second quadrant are 90 to 180. The angles within your third quadrant, which is your bottom left quadrant, is 180 to 270. And the angles in the bottom right quadrant is 270 to 360. So if you drew a line that was just below this one here, you can see the angle will come up. It's saying 2 degrees. If you type 2 degrees into AutoCAD, it will go into the first quadrant. In this bottom quadrant here, your angle will be between 270 to 360. If you want to draw a line in that segment, you would have to give its angle. See that one there, it's saying it's 3 degrees, but it's 3 degrees below 360. I will just type this line in. The way that we can tell AutoCAD, you see down the bottom, the line, it says specify next point. I'll just escape from that and start again. If I click there, it says line specify first point. So I'm going to select that there, and where it is, that is actually 0, 0, 0. 0x, 0y, 0z. The way we give AutoCAD its dimensions, you can see how it's highlighted the one 367 degrees, that will be the length of the line, and it's 9 degrees it has up there. The way that you get it in AutoCAD, now this you need to understand this and remember this, maybe you write it down because it's something you always need. You press the shift key and at, and so that now you can see how it's set on the screen. You can see the at command 365. I'm going to make that line 300. Now you see in the next it says 351, it's actually got the correct degrees in there for that quadrant, and it's got the greater than symbol, so a shift greater than, because you've got to press the shift key on the computer keyboard to access that tool. And I'm going to type, what did we say, it was 357. If it was 3 degrees below 360, I've typed 357. Press enter. Remember I said enter and spacebar are exactly the same in AutoCAD. That line there is now at 357 degrees. If I start again, once I've got line specify first point, I'm going to pick 0. I want to draw a line in the first quadrant. Shift at 300, shift greater than, see how it changed it to the first quadrant angle. I'm going to give that 30 degrees. So now that line there is at 30 degrees. If I go, I've already used the command. If I press escape, see there's nothing in the command bar now. If I press enter or the space bar, the previous command that I put in will come up again. So it's not that I've got to keep going up the top here and keep clicking the line. All I need to press enter and see how down in the toolbar in the command bar it comes up as line again. So I specify the point. I want to go up in the second quadrant up the top. Once again, shift at 300. What angle do we want this time? Let's say 97, because between 90 and 180 is in that quadrant, in the top left hand quadrant. So shift greater than 97. there's the angle there. That's how it works. You've got to always remember that you work within these quadrants. If you want to have just to say we have a rectangle and we want to rotate that rectangle, you've got to think where your point is that you're rotating. Now you've got we're in the first quadrant, over here we're in the second quadrant, down here we're in the third quadrant, and in here we're the fourth quadrant. So wherever you want to rotate that rectangle to, you've got to work within the quadrants for the angle that you give it. It's the same if we wanted to rotate it back this way. You still work in the quadrant. This quadrant over here, either your first, second, third or fourth, that is the angle you type in. So if I wanted to rotate that around 45 degrees but within the fourth quadrant, that would make it to 315. So if I type 315, enter, that's where it'll be. That's where it's rotated it to be. So what you always got to remember with this. It's once you get your head around it, it really makes life easy using AutoCAD. It won't be an issue for you. But that's how we enter the information into AutoCAD for it to do what we want it to do. So that doesn't confuse us, I'll just turn that off, the layer. So we just turn the layer off. It's still there, but I've just turned the layer off. Now with line, we'll start from the beginning, which we've already done a bit on it. It says specify first point. Now it depends on how much geometry that you're going to have in there. What you can do, you either just click it and then it's wherever it is on the screen. But we know that this here at X, Y and Z is 0, 0, 0. So if we want to be very specific, we can type 0, 0, 0, and that's our first point. And you see how the line is dead on there, on the XY. We've given it its first point. You can do that anywhere on the screen. If you know there's somewhere else you want it to be, you'd prefer it to start at. Because we're working two-dimensionally, you still put Z in 0, but it will always be 0. It would only be something different if we were working in 3 dimension, but we're not doing that. We're only working in 2 dimension. So then you can just specify however long the line that you want, whether you want it there, all you need when it's on 0 there, all we need to do is type our dimension in, but you've always got to give it a dimension. What I didn't do there was press enter when I specified 0, 0, 0. You always got to know that that's the dimension that you want to put it in. That's our line. If you want to zoom in, what it's doing, why that's going in there is because we know that that's still there. That geometry is still there. AutoCAD still knows that it's where it is. That just because we've hidden it, it doesn't mean it's gone away. So what happens is when we zoom extents, it's leaving it in the middle of the screen. Even when I turn that off, the zoom extent still knows that the drawing is there. If I didn't have that, this would zoom over to the bottom right hand corner. So with our lines, as I said to you in the other tutorial, we can just draw our lines. I know what's going on here is that polar is the current layer, and so what's happening is that I'm drawing this stuff and I can't see it. See the lines there? If your current layer is still on, you can draw everything you like and you won't see it. If I put this on 0 layer and turn polar off, now I can draw my lines 0, AutoCAD. Can't see it. Unknown command. I've got to tick line first, don't I? There's my command bar. There was nothing in there. AutoCAD doesn't know what's 0, 0, comma. It's not a command that AutoCAD recognises, so you've got to make sure you have the right command. Line specify first point, so we know it's 0, 0, 0. That's what we want. And we're going to draw a line, 300 line. There's my line 300. Now, depending whether we want to go vertical, you see that it locks on vertical. We know that it's 90 degrees. What you've got to be careful with it is if your mouse is too loose on the table, on the desk, if you haven't got a mouse pad, you can end up even typing and it makes the mouse bounce and you won't keep that angle right. To know that you're putting in the exact angle every time that you want without any worries about the mouse, is Shift at whatever length you want the line. I'll make it 250, Shift greater than 90. And it doesn't matter if the mouse or the line is drawn out here somewhere. Shift at 250, Shift greater than 90, it goes up to the vertical position. And because they're both the same length, we can bring it across and it'll be the same. Our dimensions up here, we can dimension diagonally, but then AutoCAD gives us the horizontal dimension and the vertical dimension and the diagonal dimension. A lot of times when you're doing things, you need to know that diagonal measurement, but you'd have to use Pythagoras theory to work it out on a calculator. AutoCAD does it for you. It can also measure the area. If you go around and just select the 4 points, enter, your area is 75,000 square millimeters. The perimeter is 1100. So it measures all of that for you. It's not that you've got to calculate anything. AutoCAD, being on a computer, it's bigger calculator than anything you'd ever have. Now, we go to our polylines, which I showed you in the previous tutorial. Once again, it's the same. You give it its size, enter, and this, you shift that, angle, whatever you want to do your shapes around. And remember what I said, the difference being between the single line, this one, which they'll always be single lines, this one is segments, but it's all still one line. Now, what's something I need to show you is the selection tools within AutoCAD. If you want to select something and you go start on the left hand side, always just click and drag. If you hold mouse down, well, I know this one it stays a rectangle. In the later versions, if you hold it down, it gets a real squiggly line like a lasso and it'll go all over the place. Whereas it's always good to just click and drag it through and you get the whole lot. But the way that it works with AutoCAD, if you click and drag from the left to the right, it only selects what it covers. It touched these ones here, but it didn't select them. It's got to cover everything to select it. But if you come from the right to the left, it selects anything that it touches. It covered this one, but it only touched those ones and it selected them, but it didn't pick this one. It's what it touches from right to left, and you need to cover it from left to right. Now, the advantage with that is maybe you don't want to, if you don't want to select everything in there, so you select what it touches that way. Whereas this one here, you'd have to cover the whole rectangle to be able to get these 3 lines. This way, you can just select them, or even if you didn't want this line, you select these ones. And it selects everything that it touches. Whereas this one, we'd have to cover it that way, and usually if you hold the Shift key, you can deselect something. But that's 2 movements in comparison to 1, and it's, when you're doing this for hours and hours and days and weeks and weeks, every extra movement takes up time and it adds up. So we've got these simplified ways of doing things. So that's something to remember. It's really important to remember. It's left to right. You've got to cover everything. Right to left. It covers everything. It selects everything it touches. Now with our circles, once again down our command bar, it says circle. Specify center point for circle. If I want to make it right on X, Y, Z, 0, 0, 0, enter. Once again, I'm right on 0. And then you'll see down on the toolbar it says circle, specify radius of circle or diameter. And you'll see diameter, the first letter, the capital letter, is highlighted. Now, as I said in the previous video, that if you know the diameter of a circle, you've got to do a mathematical calculation to get the radius. So if you don't need to do that calculation, you should not do it, because it makes, what happens if you do it wrong, if you get a couple of mil out or something, if humans make mistakes. So if we don't have to make a calculation, we don't need to make the calculation, we shouldn't make the calculation. So all we need to do to change it, by default it's always radius. If we type D and enter, now it says specify diameter of circle. So if we want a 300 diameter circle, type 300, enter, and that is the diameter of a circle. It's as simple as that. If you know the radius, you've always got to remember that if I just press enter for the second, at the previous command, I'll just do it again. If I type just automatically 300 and I don't think about it, there's my circle. Right click and go properties. My circle, I'll drag this over, put it on the screen. This is our properties. It's the properties of the geometry that's in there. Our diameter is 600, not 300. All I've got to do if I want to change it is type 300 in diameter, and that reduces the size of the circle to the diameter. If I select a rectangle, well, it's not a rectangle, we didn't create a rectangle, it's lines. I can check this one for the length of it, right click, properties, and you'll see the start of the X line was 0, start of the Y was 250, start of the Z is 0, end of the X is 300. I can change that to 250, so it shortens the line to 250. The end of the Y is 0, that's where the start was. So at this line I started it up here at 250. This one here, we'll see where we started that one. Start Y 0, end Y at 250. If I want to make that 300, it goes up higher. So we can modify things in properties if things aren't really what we want, but it's better if we get into the habit of always putting in geometry. Like if I just put a line there, any size, selected it, with properties, I can change the start there. See, it's minus 469. That's where it was in relation to 0. When you're drawing angles in this, you don't have to put it in negative territory, but you notice here that it's like it is on the graph, as if you're on the left-hand side of Y, it is negative, so it has registered a negative measurement. So if I change that to 0, and end X was 4.8, I changed it to 450, now I've got a line 450 millimeters long. Now that's a pretty clunky way of doing things. It's better if wherever you are, if you've got a line to start, you give it the dimension as you go, and then you'll know that it's right. Our arcs, these ones here, arc specify start point of arc or the center of the arc. That's it. Once you work with these, you'll find out how they work. It takes a bit of practice, a bit of understanding. I've got to pick 2 external points here, and now specify end point of arc. What I want to do here is to be able to give it a radius. Up here where you have the arcs, you can give it a radius up here. So depending on my arc, I want to be able to, come on, drop it down. Start, end, and radius. So you got to pick what you want. So it's my start, and now it's specifying, it's asking me down here on the command bar, specify endpoint, and now specify the radius. So you've got your three there. It's arc, specify center point of arc, or angle, direction, radius. I want the radius. You can see in the command bar it's got R there. So I'll type 200, that's the radius, and you can see the arc. That is a radius of 200. Now, when you've got these lines, we've done some drawing of different lines. Now this toolbar here is for modifying our lines. You can see down here it's called modify. Now, simply move. That's a pretty simple command. Click it, move, select objects, specify base point. I'll pick the center of the circle, and then it says specify second point. And that is just a matter of dragging it to wherever you want it to be. But in this situation, we will give it a dimension, how far away we want it, 600. Now it's moved at 600. You see that one was 300, and now they're touching there. You've always give it its measurements. If you've got a specific point you want it to touch, select that, and when you put your mouse up onto the geometry, the center of the circle will highlight so you can pick it. You might want to put it on a specific point, you can take it over, and because we've got the object snap on, it allows us to do this. See how that's going to pick it on the center of that line? I can put it on the center of any of these lines. I can put it in the corner. It'll actually snap to there. If we don't have those on, you won't be able to pick any of those points, and you won't be able to get this exactly on the point. And that's what we always want to do. Copy, that's pretty simple. You just select it once again. Copy to select objects. That's what it says down in the command bar. Enter, specify base point, and we'll pick the center, and then mode of displacement. So if we type 600, we've got a circle copied over there. Now, if we want to copy even more of these, it's always taken the measurements from the start point. So if I put 600 again, and if I want to go up further, I've got to add that 600 to the distance that I want it to go higher. So if I make it 950, there's only 350 millimeters between these two, the centers. So whenever you copy, you've got to add the dimension that you did first. This one from there to there was 600, and then if you wanted to go another 600, the next measurement you put in would be 1200. Okay, and it goes on from there. Our rotate command. If I wanted to rotate, now what will I do here? If I select back this way, look at everything that it's going to select. But if I come back this way, it's only going to select, because what's happening here, it's only selecting this one, is because this is a polyline. I've got to cover the whole thing to get it to select the polyline. Just notice that if I came back this way, that picks a whole lot of it because it's whatever it touches. When I rotate it, now remember, whichever way I'm going, whichever quadrant that's in, like it's starting there, and I'm coming up this way, I have to type in the angle that we want it to rotate to. So I change that to 90. This here is 90 degrees. It's rotated it to. I'll just move that out of the way. Now if I want to, the next tool is to mirror. If I want to mirror this one, you need, it depends on what you're mirroring. I can mirror it on this line. It's asking there mirror objects. I've already selected the mirror objects. Then it says specify first point of mirror line. I select that, and drop it down to the bottom there. It mirrors it completely, and then it's asking me erase source objects, yes or no. By default it's no. There might be some circumstances you want to get rid of that, you just want to mirror it, but in this one we don't, so we've got the two. Now that was mirrored down the centre line. If I put a line up here and I want to mirror it again, enter or spacebar, whichever one you want to use, pick that, enter, Z, enter, E, enter, it brings it in. Now it's mirrored exactly the same distance above there. This is similar to the copy command, except that it's a mirror of it. It just copies that. If I put another line down here, do the same thing. I'll mirror the whole lot of that. Enter. There's the mirrors. And you can just do that as much as you like. Now the next one we've got here is trim. Now this one here is for lines. If you've crossed a line, your line's longer than what you want it to be, what we do is hit the trim command. Now if I go back from right to left, I've selected everything. Now the way that the trim command works is the line that you want to trim to, you select the line that you want to get rid of. So I select that one, and because this has crossed this line as well, I can trim that one. I'll just go back. Now if we trim it the other way, you only select one line. If you didn't want to trim both lines, you select the line you want to trim that line to, press enter, and then you trim that one. If you don't press enter, all you do is you'll just keep trimming the line, you'll just keep selecting the line. And then you want to trim this one, it won't do anything. We want to trim this line, whichever side, you pick the side that you want to get rid of, enter, and just select that. You have a drop down here that's got extend. If we put another line up here, and we want to make this line longer, if maybe you've drawn your geometry and it's just not quite the right length, and it needs to extend to this line, you select the line you want to extend to, press enter, and then select the line that you want to extend, and then it extends it to that. Pretty simple. The next one is the fillet command, which is a radius edge on a piece of steel or a piece of wood. It says a fillet, select the object, first the object, or the polyline, radius, trim, or multiple. We always want a radius. So what's the size of the fillet we want? We press R, enter, and we'll make it 10. I'm not sure how big these lines are, whether this is going to work. And then we pick our two lines that we want to fillet. See that one there, because that's not a very big radius. Obviously these lines are a lot bigger. So I'll go enter, and because I don't want to do the same radius, I'll make it 50. Make it 30. Enter, select that, and select that. See, it's pretty big. These lines. What I'll do is I'll go back, and I'll fill it. I'll go R, enter, and I'll make it 100. Enter. It's a radius of 100. There's our fillet. The other option we have below that, same as this one here, we've got the two, we've got trim and extend. This one here has got fillet and chamfer. Now chamfer is a square cut. This is a radius cut, square cut is a chamfer. So we want angle. So we type A. We normally have 45 degrees. It's going to specify chamfer length. So that fillet was 100. So we'll make the first one 100. Enter. Chamfer specify angle from the first line 45. Enter. We'll select this, and there's our chamfer. It's from this point here, see it's 100 millimeters. It gives you the measurement. It's 100 millimeters away because we cut it on a 45-degree angle. And you know that if something's square, 45-degree angle, it's the same distance on each side. So you've got 100. If you drew a square there, 100 by 100 square, through the centre, we've got 45 degrees. Okay, there's a few things you can just fiddle around with until we move on to our next tutorial. It just gives you a basic overview of the tools for creating geometry. There's a lot we can do with them, but just have a muck around with these for a while, and then we'll move further on in tutorial